My wedding day was supposed to be perfect, but my sister-in-law, Claire, turned it into a nightmare with a single venomous act. As I stood at the altar, her cruel whisper in my ear shattered everything. "He's not who you think he is." I froze, my veil trembling in the warm June breeze. The church, filled with roses and the soft hum of anticipation, suddenly felt like a trap. My fiancé, Ethan, stood waiting, his smile faltering as he saw my face. Claire's words weren't just a warning, they were a calculated strike, dripping with spite. She'd always hated me, ever since I joined the family, but I never imagined she'd go this far. Her smug grin as she stepped back into the pews told me everything. She wanted to ruin me. I met Ethan 2 years earlier at a charity gala, where his quiet charm and kind eyes stood out in a sea of pretension. He was a high school history teacher, grounded and earnest, the opposite of Claire's flashy, self-absorbed world. Claire, married to Ethan's older brother, Mark, lived for attention. Her social media was a shrine to her perfect life. Her perfect marriage, her perfect everything. But I saw through her. The way she dismissed my opinions at family dinners, the subtle jabs about my small-town upbringing. She resented that Ethan and I were happy, that our love didn't need a spotlight. The rehearsal dinner was the first sign of trouble. Claire insisted on hosting, turning it into a spectacle at their sprawling lakeside estate. She paraded around, micromanaging every detail, while dropping snide comments about my simple wedding plans. "Oh, Emily, a barn wedding? So quaint," she'd said, her voice like syrup laced with poison. I brushed it off, focusing on Ethan's hand in mine, but the tension simmered. On the morning of the wedding, Claire's sabotage began. The caterer called, frantic. Someone had canceled half the menu, claiming I'd changed my mind. The florist arrived with wilted bouquets, saying an anonymous tip had delayed their delivery. I suspected Claire but had no proof. Then as I walked down the aisle, her whisper hit like a blade. She claimed Ethan had been unfaithful, that she'd seen him with another woman weeks ago. My heart lurched. Ethan? The man who'd spent months planning our future, who cried when he proposed. It couldn't be true. But doubt is a poison. It spread through me as I stood before the altar, my vows choking in my throat. The congregation's eyes burned into me. Ethan's face was a mask of confusion. I managed to stammer through the ceremony, but the joy was gone. Claire's words haunted me, and by the reception I was unraveling. She'd planted the seed, and it was growing thorns. That night, in our hotel suite, I confronted Ethan. His face crumpled as he swore he'd never betrayed me. "Emily, I love you." I'd never. His voice broke, and I wanted to believe him, but Claire's certainty gnawed at me. I spent our honeymoon distracted, replaying her words, searching for signs I'd missed. Ethan tried to reassure me, but the damage was done. Claire had stolen the day we'd dreamed of, and I hated her for it. Weeks later at a family barbecue, I overheard Claire laughing with her friends, bragging about how she'd put Emily in her place. That was the final straw. I wasn't going to let her win. I started digging. Claire's perfect life was a house of cards, and I was determined to find the weak spot. It didn't take long. A mutual friend, uneasy but honest, mentioned seeing Claire at a downtown bar with a man who wasn't Mark. Late-night texts, hushed phone calls, secret meetups. Signs were there, but Mark was too trusting to notice. I followed her one evening, my heart pounding as I parked outside a dimly lit restaurant. There she was, cozying up to a man in a suit, her hand lingering on his arm. I snapped photos, my hands shaking with anger and triumph. I could have confronted her then, but I wanted her to feel the same public humiliation she'd inflicted on me. Mark deserved the truth, and I wasn't going to let Claire control the narrative. I spent days gathering evidence, screenshots of flirty messages, timestamps from her social media posts that didn't add up. The man was her coworker, a married executive named Paul. Their affair had been going on for months. The plan came together at the family's annual Labor Day party, hosted at Claire and Mark's estate. The guest list was a who's who of their social circle, the perfect stage for Claire's downfall. I arrived with Ethan, my heart racing but my resolve ironclad. Claire greeted us with her usual fake warmth, but I saw the flicker of unease in her eyes. She knew I was up to something. As the evening unfolded, I waited for the right moment. The crowd was gathered around the fire pit, Claire holding court with her usual charm. I stepped forward, my phone connected to the projector they'd set up for a slideshow. "I have something to share," I said, my voice steady. The photos flashed onto the screen. Claire and Paul. Unmistakable, intimate. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Mark's face turned ashen. Claire's smile vanished, her glass slipping from her hand. "Emily, what are you doing?" she hissed, but I didn't flinch. "You ruined my wedding with lies," I said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "You wanted to destroy me, but you're the one who's been living a lie." The aftermath was chaos. Mark stormed out, Claire chasing after him, her pleas echoing in the night. The guests whispered, their phones already buzzing with the scandal. By morning, Claire's perfect life was unraveling. Mark filed for divorce within the week, and her social media empire crumbled as sponsors dropped her. Paul's wife left him, and Claire's reputation was in tatters. I didn't feel joy watching her fall. There was a hollow ache in my chest. Revenge hadn't erased the pain of my ruined wedding day, or the trust I'd struggled to rebuild with Ethan. But it had given me closure. Claire's spite had been born of envy, of her need to control and diminish others to feel big. In exposing her, I'd taken back my power. Ethan and I renewed our vows in a quiet ceremony months later, just the two of us and a justice of the peace. It wasn't the grand wedding I dreamed of, but it was real, untainted by Claire's venom. As we stood together, his hand in mine, I realized something. Love isn't about perfection or performance. It's about choosing each other, even when the world tries to tear you apart. Claire moved away, her name barely mentioned in family circles anymore. I don't know where she is now, and I don't care. My life with Ethan is enough, a life built on truth, not spite. And that's the greatest victory of all.